Welcome to the program. I'm Mark Imperial. We're doing a series of spotlights on remarkable advisors across the country. And joining me on this segment is Curt Stowers. He's the founder of F5 Financial Planning. Curt, welcome to the program.
Thanks, Mark. Glad to be here today.
Curt, tell us a little bit about your work. First and foremost, tell us about the name F5 and what that means. And then tell us who are the types of clients that you work with.
Sure. So F5 stands for Faith, Family, Friends, Fitness, and Finance, and it's a reflection of how we look at the financial planning process. We're a little bit different than a lot of the firms in that we take a more holistic approach. What we say is we like to help families find financial freedom so they can pursue personal significance. So just a little bit different take on the normal financial planning process. We're seeing a lot of folks that maybe aren't totally enamored with their day-to-day life and are looking for making a change, but they just don't know whether financially they can do it. So we focus on those folks that are kind of mid 40s and trying to figure out what they want to do and help them to understand where they're at financially and understand where they want to go and help them make the changes they need to financially so that they can pursue what's important to them.
Tell us a little bit about the differences. You have a different approach. How does it compare to, like, say, the traditional approach that people aren't quite happy with these days?
Right. Well, I think there's a couple of things, Mark. One of the big things is just from a compensation structure standpoint. A lot of things historically in the financial service industry have been a sales type thing, and where they've tried to get in your pocketbook and not let you know they're getting in your pocketbook. We do what's known as fee only planning, and so whenever we talk to a family, we say, "Here's going to be the charge," and we just share with it up front. If you look at the industry, that's kind of the direction it's going. So there are a lot of fee only planners, but compared to the total number of planners, we're a very small segment. So that's one big one. The other thing is a lot of times in financial services space, people talk predominantly about investments. They talk about trying to beat the market and what's the next best hot stock. And what we say is money is just a tool and you can't beat the market. And some people might be like, "Well, you can't beat the market." Well, all the academic research bears that out. So what we try and do is say, "Hey, folks, let's make sure we capture the market returns, but let's not try and go chasing ghosts that just don't exist. And let's use that set of assets you have to support what's important to you. So let's figure out how to make a plan for you, figure out what the goals are, and look at everything together." So it's more of a comprehensive, holistic approach, which again, it's definitely the direction the industry is going. You used to see the stockbrokers and they were trying to call you and sell one thing, and people are more and more moving towards the comprehensive approach. And you're seeing a lot of advisors move into the things beyond the financial aspects as well, because there's a lot more to life than just money.
Terrific. And with finances being so important in people's lives, but at the same time, people want to live their lives and they don't want to have a full-time second career as a financial professional with all the information that you need to keep up with. What have you found are like some of the biggest myths or misconceptions that people might hold about finances that might be keeping them from being successful?
Yeah, I think the biggest one is just to revisit that thing about trying to beat the market. As far as, I mean, you just see that again and again and again, and they the press feeds on that. They're always trying to tell you you can beat the market. If you turn on the news and you see Jim Cramer and he's talking about this or that, and you see the tickers running across the bottom, and everyone's always talking about how to make a fast buck. And um, I'm not saying it can't be done. I am 100% certain there are people that make millions or tens of millions of dollars playing in the stock market. But for most folks, the it's a myth that you're going to get rich by trying to time the market or pick the magic stock. So that's probably the biggest thing. Um, the other thing is you don't have time for it, or you don't have enough money for it, or you're just like, I'll get to it later. It can wait. It really can't wait. Um, I'm not going to go into the mathematics of it. I love my math and numbers, but the power of compounding is just incredible as far as when you look at it. There's a famous rule called the rule of 72, which says if you take return rate, let's say 8%, and you divide it into 72, you get nine. It says your money's going to double in every 9 years. So you take somebody that's 30 years old, and let's say they want to work till they're 66. That's 36. That's four doubles. That's 2, 4, 8, 16. So you're going to end up 16 times as much money as you have now. So if you have $10,000, that grows up to 160,000. So I think the myth is that you have time. You don't have time, but you do have time. You don't have time because you can't afford to wait, but you do have time and it can be on your side. So that's one of the big things is people say, well, I'll get to it tomorrow. And you really have to do those things early and plan ahead.
Yeah, and you mentioned that other myth of, oh, I don't have enough money to count anyway, so I could just put this off, and that's not true. You could start with very little.
And Marcus is a great point. I like to tell everyone, um, well, I'll just kind of do a little role play here with you. You know, so you come to me and you say, hey, Curt, I got $10,000 bonus. What do you think I should do with it? The first thing I'm going to tell you is, Mark, I want to take half of it and go on vacation. How do you feel about that?
Wow, happy. Sure, let's
Okay.
do it.
All right. So that's great, Mark. So I just need you to save the other half. You okay? You're going to have your vacation. Can you save the other half for me?
Hey, good enough. I get to go on that vacation.
Right. Well, if we do that with a raise and you get a 10% raise, and I say, Mark, take 5% and go on a vacation, and then take the other 5% and save it, I've just played a little game with you here. That vacation is something that you don't have to do every year. It's something you can do. Next year, when things come around, I've actually got you. I've got 5% extra cash flow available to you. And you do this for a couple of years with families where you say, hey, I just want you to take half of each of your raise and save it. And the other half, I want you to do something from an experiential standpoint. A couple of years down the line, they've had the experiences, they're saving the money, and they've got more cash flow. And they're like, how is this happening? And what we've done is we kept them from expanding their lifestyle. And so there's little tricks like that can make a big difference. And that's what we try and work with families on. The psychology of this is every bit as important as the quantitative aspect of it. There's a lot to get in people's mind and figuring out how they think about things and trying to guide them with the right thought processes.
That totally makes sense because if I think back, I'd say, oh, I would have just blown that whole 10 on something I always wanted, and actually, you made me feel good about using half of it.
Bingo. And so I gave you your vacation, and you're like, I want to work with this guy. This guy's getting me on more vacations, but I also got you to save for me. But again, there's like two nuances. I gave you something, I got something, but then what I really did is I got all 10% available for a longer term, because next year, if you get another 10% raise, and people early in their life, early in their career are getting that, well, they didn't expand their lifestyle. What a lot of people do is they fall into the trap and says, hey, I need a new car. My car is 6 years old. And so they get the new car. They do a lifestyle expansion. They just increase expenses. And at a certain point in time, you have to do that. You end up with a family, kids, different things, but you don't have to do it quite as much as a lot of people do. So lots of fun things you can do with families. That's just one example.
So I could see like spending that whole 10 as being one of the pitfalls or big mistakes that people might make. Can you think of any other like big pitfalls or big mistakes you see people make when they don't think about it?
Yeah. One that, so I'm a math and science guy and engineer by background, so it's hard for me to relate to this, but probably the biggest thing I see is you come to me and I say, hey, Mark, do you know how much you spend each month? And people are like, yeah, next question. I'd say that's probably the biggest mistake that people make because they just don't know what they spend. So again, if you came to me and said, hey, I said, what do you spend? You're like, hey, I don't know. I'm like, okay, Mark, you okay if we use some electronic tools? I mean, I've got some tools, but you can use Mint or Quicken or different things. And let's just kind of hook up your bank account and your credit cards and just see, because technology being what it is, we can suck in 6, 9, 12 months worth of transactions. Um, I would lay a dollar to a donut that a huge percentage of the people that I did that with, I would say, Mark, do you understand that you're spending $700 a month on dining out? And they're like, well, no, I'm not. And I'm like, oh, okay, I must be confused. And so I show them that, and they're like, oh, wow, I'm spending $700 a month on dining out. So the big mistake people make is they just don't understand what they spend. Again, you come to me, we talk about this. I say, Mark, you're spending $700 a month dining out. And you're like, well, I don't want to do that. I'm like, well, what do you think we could do? And you're like, well, I can stop dining out as much. And I'm like, knock yourself out, dude. And it's all these subtle little things. It's just being aware of the behavior. So that's probably one of the biggest mistakes. Another thing I'll see is, and I may draw a little flack on this, couples where one part of the couple has his or her bank account and the other part has his or her bank account, and one is carrying credit card debt and the other has extra cash. Why are you paying 18% interest over here when your partner's got extra cash available? Why not pay it off? So those are a couple of the big ones that people make.
because this bag is mine. That's I can totally see that. But
Yeah, and that goes back to setting the goals down as far as you try and figure out what are the goals we want. And it can be very challenging when you get that one of the partners may have a better 401k plan. It's like, well, let's put all of the money in your 401k plan. Like, well, then I won't have any money to pay the bills. Like, well, maybe the other partner has to pick up a certain set of the bills. And so we prefer to have folks kind of commingle the funds and kind of work towards family goals. And it takes a little bit of time, but most of the time we can get folks there. But that is certainly a challenging area. His and her funds can be challenging.
And with all the tools available today, as you mentioned, there's like almost no excuse to not plug them in and see what's going on. It's almost too easy. But then again, a lot of people want to stick their head in the sand, I'd imagine.
Right.
Curt, what inspired you to even get into this field and help people with their finances? How did you get started?
Well, that's an interesting question. I was actually relocated up here to Chicago about a dozen years back, and I'd had a really, really outstanding career with Caterpillar. Worked with Caterpillar at one point in time. I lived in the Middle East, had 600 people that worked for me, managing facilities in Brussels, Moscow, Manchester, South Africa. Just a wonderful experience. And after I got up here, went to work for a little bit different part of the company, and within about 6 months of being up here, my boss and a peer came into the office and said, "Hey, they're selling this part of the company, and a wall's going up, and none of us can go back to Caterpillar, and nobody from Caterpillar come over here." Um, well, financially, I'd done really well. I've got undergrad and graduate degrees in engineering, pretty much a math and numbers whiz. Financially, I could do what I wanted, and I didn't particularly like being told I was being sold. Uh, don't find that a very attractive thing. So I looked around and said, what am I good at, and what do I really enjoy? And numbers and finance are something I'd always enjoyed. Working as a general manager, running businesses, being around that, people had always come to me for help. And I said, well, I don't have to do anything. I could play golf and fish, but I'm a little young to do that. So let's make a change. So I went through the process of finding out how to become registered as a financial advisor, and found out about the Certified Financial Planning Program and how to start your own business, and just did that over a couple of years, and then slowly made the transition. And that was back in 2014, February 2014, when I started my own firm. And we started with no clients, and now we have over 100 families that we support, and we manage over $100 million investments for the families that we serve.
That's really fantastic, and especially having that perspective from both sides of the fence, so to speak. So,
Yeah, it's a
Curt,
big difference coming, not growing up in the industry, actually having worked outside of it. And so I do have a different perspective as opposed to somebody that, no disrespect intended, but somebody that right out of school maybe got hired to sell insurance and came up through the sales channels and has always been pushing products. I've been through the ringer. We've got the kids and the relocations and college and kids getting married and all those things. So definitely have some perspectives.
terrific. Curt, before I ask you my last question, for folks who know they need to get their financial house in order, but they just don't quite know where to start, what's the most important thing people should consider when choosing an advisor to work with?
Um, I'd use Google. I mean, I know that sounds cliche-ish, but I would go out and I would just search how to find a financial advisor, and I would encourage everyone just to go out and do the search. You're quickly going to come to the conclusion that what you want is a fee-only financial advisor, and you're quickly going to come to an organization called NAPFA, the National Association of Personal Financial Advisors, and they've got a website and they've got a whole list of us. And I'd love the opportunity to talk to anybody that's looking for an advisor, but if you don't pick me, go pick one of the other ones. I've had so many families that we work with that found me on the internet, and they did exactly that. So just go out, Google, find a financial advisor. What makes a good financial advisor? Everybody always ends up at NAPFA. It's not that they've done great SEO. It's simply that get a little techie and geeky here. The way Google works, you've got the games you can play, but then you get just the best content, and the best content points you to that organization. That's where all the traffic goes, and so that's the best thing to do. Just go out, check it out, and I'll be there. There'll be a lot of my friends and colleagues there. Good relationship with a lot of advisors, and I just can't speak highly enough for people that are in the fee only profession.
Sage advice. Curt, for folks listening that would love to speak with you, how do they find you, connect with you, and learn more?
Sure. Best thing to do is just go to our website. Our website is www.f as in Frank, the number five, F as in Frank, P as in Paul.com. That's F5 Financial Planning. So you go to f5fp.com. Our website's there. We've got an extensive library of blog posts, all self-created. I've got a 700 blog posts out there. We just on a weekly basis, we're putting a couple of blog posts out, and we've got a lot of information about other topics. So jump out there, take a look. A lot of resources, and if you decide you want to speak with me, there's a scheduling widget out there. We do like our technology, so you can get a hold of us that way. Jump on. You schedule once to grab some time on my calendar, and I'll be happy to talk with you. No obligations. I speak with dozens of people every year where we don't end up working together. I feel very blessed in how my life has played out, and it just seems like every time I talk to somebody and help them out, and they don't become a client, a week or 2 weeks later, somebody does show up that does become a client. So there's plenty enough to go around. Happy to have a discussion with anyone that would like to find out a little bit about where they're at and what they might do to get on the right track.
Curt, this has been terrific. I really appreciate you taking the time and sharing with my audience today. And I wish you continued success for you and for all of your clients.
Thank you, Mark. I really appreciate you having me here, and thanks for all you do for the community as a whole and for spotlighting different folks. I appreciate the opportunity to speak with you today, and look forward to connecting with you again in the future and finding other ways we can work together.
That was Curt Stowers. He's the founder of F5 Financial Planning based out of Naperville, Illinois. And this